Okay, today we're going to be changing coolant on a 6.7 Cummins engine, and same process applies for the 5.9 as well. This is really easy. Anyone, even if you're not mechanically inclined, could do this at home yourself and save some money. So as far as what you need, we've got a 5-gallon bucket, that's what I use, and a funnel. You're going to drain the radiator and you'll probably get about 4, maybe 4.5 gallons out that way. The cooling system holds about 6 gallons, so unless you do a flush, you won't get all of the coolant out, but you'll get most of it out. And I will comment on when to do a flush and some options for that in a minute. But let's take a look at the coolant first. So for these trucks, you got to run a special kind of coolant. This is the one that I use. This is the only coolant that I've ever used in these trucks. And it is the Valvoline Zerex G05, and I've got the concentrated version, so you're actually going to do a 50-50 mix with some water. I like to use distilled water, but there's other options. I'm sure that purified water of any kind will be good enough, but I personally like to use distilled. So let's get over here and get the hood popped and get this coolant draining a while, because it does take a while to drain. So if you come under the driver's side of your truck, you'll see at the bottom of the radiator there is this dial, and this is what allows you to drain coolant from your radiator. And most trucks you will simply twist to the left, which I may actually need a set of pliers here because I've got mine fairly tight. You may also need to pull outwards a little bit as well. Okay, take 2 with this. There it comes. So there goes your coolant. That's going to drain for a while, so you just have to be patient. To facilitate drainage, we will loosen or remove the radiator cap, which in my case I'm just going to take it off. Have to be removed in order to refill. If you haven't changed your radiator cap in a while, they are cheap, and this is a good time to just swap that out. Mine's pretty young, maybe 20,000 miles on it. That's about it. While that's draining, I can talk about flushing the radiator or flushing the cooling system. One thing you could do if you want a cheap flush, you could take your garden hose. After this is done draining, go ahead and fill up your radiator. You can even start the truck and run it for a while, and then drain it out. And that's one way just to do a cheap flush. Another option is to go to the store and get one of those flush kits with the bottle, which you'll mix with regular water in the radiator. Run the truck for 10 minutes. That allows you to flush out the heater core, which is way back in the firewall there. You can flush the heater core or the radiator. Now in my case, I know my coolant's pretty low miles, and I know my radiator's pretty low miles. This radiator only's got 15,000 miles, maybe 20,000 miles on it. So I'm not worried about any cooling system problems. I'm just changing the coolant to get fresh coolant in the truck. Okay, as you can see here, for all intents and purposes, this is done. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this back down like so, and it'll probably go another half a turn here with a little bit of pliers. But if you loosen this when you start the job and you don't see coolant come out, it's because there's a little O-ring inside of here that's on the end of this dial, and that's it's gotten stuck. So don't keep twisting. I think the best way to get it out may be to start the truck, warm the truck up, leave the radiator cap on, and then open this. And it should have a little bit of pressure enough to push out. I had that happen to me once before, and I made the mistake of twisting this thing all the way off, and no coolant was coming out. And next thing you know, it blows out, and the O-ring goes flying off over here somewhere. And luckily, I found it. So that's just one little tip. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up. I have a interesting procedure that I use for filling the radiator. Okay, so here's how I fill the radiator. First thing I do is I start with a little bit of water. I'll add about half a gallon of water. And what I'm doing here, I'm just going to make sure that the drain valve on the bottom of the radiator doesn't leak, so that if it does leak and we have to re-drain, it's just water. And I'm not seeing any leaks, so we'll add the rest of this. Let me check again real quick. Everything looks good. So at that point, I switched to coolant. And the reason for that is that eventually this radiator is probably going to overflow. Well, and it's better to have that happen when you're filling water than when you're filling coolant. It's nicer to get water everywhere than coolant everywhere. So as we probably fast forward through this section, but you get the idea. I'm literally going to add about 2 or 2.5 gallons of this coolant, and then I'm going to top it off with water. Okay, we're now at a point where we have overflown the radiator, and it happened a little bit sooner than I thought. As you can see here, that's just water in the funnel, so it is leaking a bit, but we're gonna go ahead and fire the truck up and see if we can get that level to drop a little bit. We may not be able to without driving the truck, but we'll see. So we'll fire it up and let it run for a couple of minutes. Also, there is a breather here for coolant fill. I never use it. The 6.7 engine has it, the 5.9 does not. You can loosen this little nut or whatever on top here, and basically get all the air out of the system that way. The other way to do it is just to start it, run it, get the thermostat to open, and then check your level. And that's what I usually do. I've already seen a few air bubbles coming out, so we're just going to try and get this level to drop a little bit, and we'll probably take the truck out for a little drive. So I just got back from a test drive, got it up to operating temperature, got the thermostat to open and everything, cracked the radiator cap. There was a little air bubble in there, but coolant level was still right about at the top here. Started to overflow even, so didn't have to top this off. But I did add about a gallon into the overflow bottle worth of about half a gallon of coolant and a half a gallon of distilled water. So that's really it. Truck's done. No leaks. So coming down here though, we've got our old coolant. It looks okay. I'm not seeing any debris in there. I'm not seeing any oil in there either. It's got like a red color to it, which, you know, has me scratching my head a little bit. Now I understand that when I got the truck I had red coolant in there, but I did do a change with this yellow Xerex coolant before, and it ended up turning back to this color. So not exactly sure if having a 4-to-1 mixture or 5-to-1 mixture would really cause it to go right back to red, or if there's something else going on. Truck did have a EGR cooler, which probably put that coolant under a little bit more stress than normal, which we no longer have to worry about that. So I'm not too worried about this coolant. In fact, I'm actually gonna put it in these bottles over here and save it for an emergency. So hope y'all enjoyed the video and found it helpful if you're looking to do the job yourself. I'll see y'all in the next one. You can see we only used 2.5 gallons of the G05. So 2.5 gallons of that, about 2.5 gallons of that too. And you can see we got a little less than 5 gallons out here. So if you get 3 bottles of the coolant, you're good to go. All right, that's it for me. Take care.